I will call the meeting to order. This is the October 19th GCRA Advisory Board meeting. So first we will do a roll call. We have member Evelyn Fox.
Here.
Armando Grundy Gomez.
Present.
Jacob Ivey. Christopher Merritt.
Present.
Jason Mitchell. Jay Nordquist.
Here.
Palmer.
Here.
And Stephanie Seawright. Okay, so before the adoption of the agenda, we will need the board to make a motion for a chair for this evening.
Who's the secretary? We don't have one. That's the next person in line. Chris, I'm gonna nominate Christopher to chair the meeting.
So do we have any volunteers for anyone who would like to chair?
I'll nominate Armando.
Yeah. I'll say hell no.
Okay, so that's a motion from member Merritt and a second from member Ivey. Okay. So can we all have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Chair Grundy Gomez, you have the floor.
Thank you. We have an adoption of the agenda. Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by member Palmer, seconded by member Fox. Is there any discussion or any unreadiness? Tricia, member Mitchell is present.
I see. Thank you.
So we just made an adoption of the agenda. We get a chance. Any discussion? Okay. Any members of the public want to have a discussion? Okay. We will have a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, say like sign. Same like sign. I got tongue twisted there, folks. All right, thank you. All right, so we're gonna have the chair, communications, shares report. I don't have a report today. It's for some of us, it's gonna be our last meeting. For some of you that are applied, I think it's a couple of you on here that are reapplied. I wish you well to those of you that have reapplied. Tricia, do you have those who in here that are present that have reapplied? That are here currently?
Yep.
Member Palmer,
Show of hands.
member Northquist, member Mitchell, member Fox, and member Ivey. Well, I want to wish you all very well. Going forward, we got 8 more years of stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be very important that we have conversations about development. There's a lot of institutional knowledge. Sometimes I know that there can be discussions that we have on a very high level at times, and some people think that they may not understand it, but the one thing that I appreciated that we had when we had discussions, that they were always good to have them in a way that we're going to make a meaningful impact, building relationships. I will say between staff, Mr. Bredfeld, Tricia, David Roque, Sarah Vidal, Assistant City Manager Bowie. These are people that you can lean on, rely on, and it's good to have staff that we can reflect on because they're going to guide us in the right direction. And there's a lot of big projects. So it is my hope, especially for somebody that wants good quality development, that we have people that are going to put the people first, because that's who we're here to serve. And we want to have, build that coalition. We want to build together because we have $78 million or a little bit less than that now, probably, I'm sure. But a lot of dollars that need to be spent and make an impact to eliminate urban blight and decay. Think about what our mission is. Think about why we got here. We have a new city manager coming on board. Cynthia Curry, for those of you that don't know her, that's also something that's going to be good to build and get to understand. She's got a lot of support here. And it's good to see that we have diversity happening here, especially when it comes to women. And I want to just acknowledge one more thing. When we have strong women that are leading the organization, look at Sarah Vidal, strong leaders like Deborah Bowie, strong leaders. That's an impressive thing. And now the city manager. So I just want to encourage you all to do great things. I wish you nothing but the best. I did not reapply because I'm also doing big things right now. But I wish you all nothing but the best. All right, so Ms. Vidal, are you here? We have the director's report.
I am. Good evening. It's good to see
Hello, it's good to see you.
you. I don't have anything to report unless there are any questions with the project update on the agenda. I'll be here to answer any questions.
I did want to have a couple of questions about it, if I may, Ms. Vidal, and with respect to Heartwood, have we or GCRE staff had any conversations with the incoming city manager, interim city manager?
So no, we have not. I believe I have a meeting with her tomorrow. Not one-on-one, but the leadership team is meeting to go over the Perform GNV, which is strategic planning. And she is going to be in attendance, from what I understand, to meet everyone on the leadership team tomorrow.
I did receive an email from, I don't know if anybody else received it today, Ms. Vidal, in that it was from a member of the public, resident Tana Silva. Did anybody else receive that email? Yes. Can anybody give us some insight on what Ms. Silva was talking about, or maybe we should just wait to have Ms. Silva call in or talk about it herself, Ms. Vidal?
So yes, I did see that, and that should actually be directed to the planning department, to Andrew Persons.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just, I think sent to us, people get confused sometimes about, our role versus other departments, so.
Ms. Vidal, on a positive, I want to tell you what a bright light your leadership has been the last couple of years. You and your staff, you're a credit to your staff. They come to work every day to do hard work, and I want to acknowledge you, how much I appreciate all the work that you do for this community. You are a beacon of light that we really need to see more of, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, Armando.
You're welcome. All right, Trisha, staff report. Does staff have anything?
I do. We actually, Ms. Silva is she's here on Zoom and she has her hand up.
Okay.
So.
Should we wait till maybe toward the end for a citizen comment for that? All right, so I'm going to ask Ms. Silva to wait till the end for citizen comment. Did you have anything else other than that?
I did. So the next meeting is on December 21st. I know that's a difficult week for a lot of people. I'm sorry, not the next meeting. Next meeting is in November, but the December meeting falls on December 21st. And normally I would wait. I know that there will be new members appointed and we would prefer for them to make the decision, but just for the sake of planning, I'm hoping to get some direction for if you all would like to reschedule that meeting for possibly the week before, or if you want to just cancel the December meeting altogether. Just like to hear your thoughts on that.
I have a question. Is that something we can kind of, I don't know, is that something we can kind of play by ear, where if we do have people show up, that it can be something that we can actually do something on, but if, maybe it not be one of those like mandatory meetings or not count towards being mandatory. I don't like the idea of just, skipping meeting. I know, January and December and November kind of things slow down a lot, but I like the idea of there still being a meeting. And I think a lot of us will still be around here around then.
Can we just do it early on in December? If we can decide on the date now, and that way you'll send it out and not play it by ear.
Yeah, that would,
So
yeah.
let's just go ahead and set a date and send it out to the new members, and I'm sure they'll be here.
Okay, so
maybe
we could.
maybe you could do a doodle poll.
Mhm.
That might be helpful.
Mr. Chairman, Member Fox and Palmer, the question is, I believe the commission is going to be deciding on the new commission, on the new GCRA board this Thursday.
Right.
So alternatively, to address your concern, perhaps wait for these appointments, have the November meeting, and then, and I know it's cutting it short, and so it may not.
Yeah, that's why I
It's up
was
to you.
asking this month, if you would prefer to just
Yeah.
bump it up earlier in the month, just
Yeah,
for,
'cause
So Member Palmer, do you think maybe as making a decision, because they're not gonna know, the incoming folks are not gonna know the difference whether you have it on the 21st or sooner.
Right, yeah, I guess mine's only sort of a point of clarification, is whether it be available or whether there is an option to where if people do miss that one, if say, because the new board members and we're doing planning, if they're missing that one, it doesn't count against people who can't make it, because we're having to kind of shuffle schedules for people. I don't know what the regulations are there.
So the attendance policy states that you're counted as absent for any meeting where there is voting. So if December's were to be a workshop, if there's no action taken, then that's how you would not have attendance required.
Personally, I think a workshop might actually be really good around that time. I mean, I'm definitely open to moving it up too. But I think a workshop would be really good around then, because then that gives us a chance to say, hey, welcome to the board. They get one meeting where they're like, oh, okay,
Sounds like a
now I
motion.
see how this is going. And then the next meeting, here's all of that information that you're going to need to be able to help us be successful moving forward.
Member Palmer, sounds like a motion.
Sarah's hand is up too.
Yes, Member Vidal, or excuse me, Director Vidal.
Thank you. I was just going to mention that, a lot of preparation goes into these meetings. So we definitely would either want to cancel it or reschedule. Typically what happens around the holidays is people's plans start to come together, and then we have low attendance. We used to every January skip a meeting because it fell on Martin Luther King holiday. So I just wanted to share that, for a little context to the conversation. I would probably encourage you all to choose a meeting date earlier in the month. I think that might be the best option, unless December is packed for most of you, I think, reapplied. So we'd prefer kind of either skip it or move it earlier. That would be our recommendation.
I'll make a motion that we move it to an earlier date.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second,
We have a motion is properly second. Is there any discussion?
December 14th, Tuesday before. That works.
I didn't hear Mr. Norquist. Mr. Norquist, did you make a date?
I did not make a date. I would figure that it would be a week prior to this meeting, so it would fall on the same day, same time, but a week earlier.
So maybe I would maybe encourage you, maybe we give a time certain date for the motion. If you
we
want
have
to
to look
consider
at the calendar. Does anybody have?
that. So you want to do the 14th? So you're making that as would you entertain a friendly amendment to your motion?
I would.
Okay. Does a seconder agree with the friendly amendment? Member Fox?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So is there any discussion on having a meeting December 14th? Any unreadiness? Any public comment? All right. Public comment up out in Zoom land? All right. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against, same like sign? All right, motion passes unanimously. And that motion was made by Member Norquist. Please help me pronounce your name.
You got it right. You got it right.
Norquist,
Norquist.
and seconded by Member Fox. Thank you.
Thank you, Armando.
All right, so we're gonna keep on moving with the agenda. We're gonna move a little bit quicker. All right, so we have GCRA housing programs.
Those are consent agenda.
Consent agenda, I'm sorry, correction. Let me back up. Thank you, Member Palmer. We have the consent agenda. Is there anybody that has anything on the consent agenda that would like discuss, pulled, or any discussion about the consent agenda? Do you want to give a few moments to look at the consent agenda? I want to definitely pull something on Heartwood. I had a question about Heartwood. And that's about it for me. Anybody else? Ms. Vidal. I wanted to know, even though rather than just pull it off consent agenda, if we could just have an update on the Infinity line and just some of the projects briefly. If everybody wants to approve what's on consent agenda, if we could just have some brief updates on some topics, so maybe of our interest or whatever members' interest are, we can go around the room. Does anybody have anything they want an update on?
I'll go ahead. I concur with you. I would also like an update on the Infinity line.
Okay, so let's pull, I want to have Hartwood pull, Infinity line pull, and 8th and Waldo, an update on 8th and Waldo too as well, please. All right, so Tricia, we're gonna have Hartwood pulled off consent agenda. We're gonna have the Infinity line and an update on 8th and Waldo. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
Motion to approve.
You move to approve, is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we'll take your pick, okay. So Tricia, the motion was made to approve the consent agenda as amended by Member Palmer, seconded by Member Merritt. Is there any discussion on the motion of consent to approve the consent agenda as amended? Any unreadiness? Any public comment? Tricia out in Zoom land for public comment. Any comments? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody not in favor of the motion, same like sign? Motion passes. All right. All right, so we have the consent agenda. So we're gonna go to the Hartwood update. Is Tricia is project manager Dan Gill on the line?
So generally, when we pull items from the consent agenda, we add them to the end of the agenda.
Okay, well, we could do that. That's fine.
So the next item is at the bottom of page 4. Past
Thank
the
you, Tricia, for keeping.
multiple pages of consent agenda.
Just straight with me. All right, we're gonna have business discussion items. Item number 210322, historic home stabilization program follow-up. And Tricia, who will be presenting on that?
That will be Chelsea Bakaitis.
All right, Chelsea. Hello, Chelsea. Chelsea, you there? I think she's on mute.
All right, can you hear me now?
You can.
Okay, I apologize. It looks like it was connecting to the wrong, to a microphone I don't have connected.
Oh, you, Chelsea. So you go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna do a screen share. All right. You can all see my screen fine?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody, again for coming out today. My name is, for the record, my name is Chelsea Bakaitis, and I'm a project manager with the GCRA. Right. Pictured here on this slide, I want to kind of start off with the story of this. So this was a model block home, but I'm not showing you this because we're not, redoing the model block program, but I just wanted to show an example of what fixing up a dilapidated historic home can really do. You can see the building on the top is boarded up. It's unlivable, and just with a little bit of TLC, house was fixed up and now people can live in it. It's no longer a bite to the neighborhood, and it also preserves some of the history of the neighborhood. So the program I'm going to present to you today, the Historic Home Stabilization Program, this is an update to an item I presented in July. This program is originally actually based off of a former program in the Pleasant Street neighborhood that was administered by the Planning Department in 2016. The original program goals of this program was to preserve homes that were falling apart into disrepair and that to prevent them from being demolished. To start the presentation off, I'll go over the agenda. I just want to make a know that this is going to be kind of a longer presentation than normal, but it's because we really want to be able to lay down the facts about what's going on in our neighborhoods in order to help you make the best decision you can make. I'd also like to mention that we have 2 guest speakers here from other departments to share their expertise about home rehabilitation and historic preservation. We have Ms. Helen Harris from our Housing and Community Development Department. She's here to talk about rehabilitation programs that our existing the city is doing. And then Ms. Kathleen Kaufman is here to talk about historic preservation. She's our new historic preservation officer, and she's with the Department of Sustainable Development. All right, next slide. All right, so really quick, I just want to go over the agenda. I'm gonna start off the presentation by following up. The board made a motion at that meeting, and I want, in the motion, you had some questions. So I want to answer those questions and kind of touch on some comments you made during that meeting. Then Ms. Kathleen Kaufman will talk about her experience as a historic preservation officer for municipalities and kind of her experience with preservation in neighborhoods like the ones in the GCRA district. And that after her, I'm going to talk a little bit about what demolition by neglect. And then after that, I'm going to go over historic home rehab programs in Alachua County. And then Ms. Helen Harris will go over what her department offers. And then I'm going to talk about suggested program guidelines that perhaps we can implement with this program. And then that will lead us into your discussion, the advisory board discussion. And then finally, I'd like to hear what your recommendations are for moving this program. All right, so the last meeting, July 20th, you made a motion for staff to bring the program back next month with the number of homes that have been identified as built before the year 1978 that would qualify for this program. Other comments that were made, the board generally asked for us to bring data and criteria for what is a contributing structure. This question was posed to help us figure out what the eligibility would be for this program. So I crunched some numbers, and I'll show a map on the next slide. There's 1,653 homes that were built before the year 1978 in the district. Since the year 2011, 58 of these homes have been declared dangerous. And as of July 2021, 11 have been declared dangerous. Of course, there's more homes than this. These are just the homes that code enforcement has found dangerous. All right, so here is a whole map of homes built before 1978. I'm actually gonna get out of my presentation really quick, and I want to show kind of a decade by decade so you can see where homes were built, where's the concentration of homes in each decade. And I apologize, I don't have that as part of my, I have that as part of my PowerPoint presentation. If I can. Okay, you can all see my screen still, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to start off. These are homes built between 1891 and 1990. This is property appraiser data. So it's not always the most accurate, but it's kind of what we have, and it does show the distribution. This is homes, as you can see, a lot of homes built in this time period have not been preserved. So it is kind of, it looks pretty scarce. That a lot of that has to do with demolition. A lot of homes that were built pre-20s have been demolished. So these are homes, this concentration of homes built in the 20s. You can see right here, this is where those bed and breakfast district is. You know, there's a bunch right here in Fifth Avenue, kind of a few in Porter's. Right here, this is the Duck Pond area. 1930, you can see there's quite a bit built in the 30s in Porter, Sugar Hill, a few in Spring Hill, and then up here in College Park, and then Fifth Avenue and Pleasant Street, is there's a huge concentration of homes built in the 30s.
Chelsea, point of information.
Yes.
So everything within the the border, the lines that you have drawn is the GCRA district, is that correct?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, correct. So this is the GCRA district, and then these are the different neighborhoods. And I had the neighborhoods labeled before, but I don't have it on. I had it on when I had it in the presentation. Anyway, but I can name the neighborhoods if you need me to name the neighborhoods. They're not labeled.
Notice you have Sugar Hill down there, you have Lincoln Estates. One over is called Breezy Acres, which is gonna be over there behind Woodland Park. It's called Breezy Acres, it's in the district too as well. That's also in the district.
Right here?
Would be, it'd be down further a little bit, but yes, it's down in that bottom half, yep, over there.
Okay. Okay, right here. Okay. So this is the 1940s. You can kind of see the distribution there. There's a cluster right here in Lincoln, North Lincoln. I think this is North Lincoln Heights. And then 50s, you see development moves more east in the 50s. There's more in Duval, and then right here in North Lincoln Estates, there's a cluster of subdivisions built. And then the 60s, you can see this is kind of all these mid-century modern homes along with the 50s built along here into Duval. And then the 70s, okay, somehow 70s ended up, 70s you can see Cedar Grove and then Duval. The most concentration of homes built in the 70s were up here in these neighborhoods. So you can kind of see these are the older areas, and then this, and then kind of this. All right. All right, so I'm gonna talk about neighborhood stability through preservation. I'm now going to turn the time over to Miss Kathleen Kaufman. I just want to thank her before she begins for staying late. She said that she was going to pick up her daughter, but luckily the weather was so nice, her daughter wanted to walk home from school. But she is taking that time to meet with us tonight. So I want to say thank you for that. So I'll move the time over to Kathleen. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. It's actually it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. And I'm only seeing you all in the multi-purpose room from a bird's eye view, so I don't know if you can see me or not. But okay, good. I'm just thrilled. I am so thrilled to be back in Gainesville, a community that I love so much and played such a part of my life, and really, really grateful to be able to come back and give back to this community in a way that I know how. And I'll just briefly tell you a little bit of my historic preservation experience. I have 2 degrees in historic preservation. My graduate one is from University of Florida, and 25 years of preservation experience. Most of that time has been work with governments, either the State Division of Historical Resources or as a historic preservation officer for communities around Florida. And I was the historic preservation chief for Miami-Dade County for 10 years. And I did a little bit of time in Tallahassee as the executive director for the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. I also spent time working in the Florida Main Street office at the Division of Historical Resources. So I have worked with community redevelopment agencies for many, many years. And I have seen the power that your organization can do for communities. It is an amazing vision, an amazing mission. And I've done a lot of projects with CRAs in other communities, particularly Fort Pierce, West Palm Beach, and City of Miami. And the City of Miami's CRA actually has a very impressive track record of restoring large historic buildings utilizing state preservation grants. So I want you to think of me as a resource for you, okay? I wanna be here to help you in any way that I can further your mission and I want to be able to answer any questions or go over any misconceptions of historic preservation that you might have at any time. You're welcome to email me separately or privately or in the realm of a public meeting. And I want to be that person to really know that you can call on if you have any questions about either the ordinance or preservation programs, or how we actually do historic preservation in the city of Gainesville. And I'll just go over one thing kind of quickly, and that is I wanted to tell you what some of my challenges are going to be here at the city of Gainesville. And you tell me if my challenges sound anything like your challenges. So I had a couple of meetings with the city manager already since coming here, and we are definitely on the same page. And some of the challenges and some of the things the city really would like to see is how are we going to protect some of these very significant historic neighborhoods from encroaching development that is detrimental to the character of that neighborhood. Additionally, how are we going to protect some of these neighborhoods that perhaps have been underrepresented in the past or have been overlooked in the past? Some of them are specifically African-American neighborhoods. What are we going to do to help prevent the breakdown of the character of these communities? And what kind of incentives can we provide to really make sure that people want to stay living there and that people are proud of the neighborhood that they're in and really promote the history from within? So what kind of things can we do as a city government, as a city organization, in order to make that happen? And of course, historic preservation usually gets a bad rap for this, but we are actually very involved and very concerned about the preservation of affordable housing. And sometimes people think, oh my gosh, you preserve our neighborhood and then all the prices go sky high and we can't afford it. Actually, there's a bunch of studies out there and a bunch of resources out there that show you how preservation can actually help enforce affordable housing. And so these are the kinds of things that I want to bring to this community, my knowledge of these things, so that we can sort of really, I would love to collaborate with you in any way we can in order to accomplish these types of things.
All right, thank you, Kathleen. So I have these slides here to kind of talk about contributing structures, because that was one of the questions that you, the advisory board, had asked at July's meeting, like, what's a contributing structure? What is a local register of historic places? What's a designation? So Kathleen, I was also wondering if you could really quick just kind of go over what local designation is.
Sure. I'm happy to do that. So the local, and you all may have heard of the National Register of Historic Places. The National Register of Historic Places is very much kind of an honorary thing. It is difficult to obtain because of the time commitment and the research that has to go into those nominations. But make no mistake, the National Register of Historic Places is very much an honorary distinction. It does not really protect any resource. It does not prevent demolition. Your power to really protect resources that you think contribute to the neighborhood and should be perpetuated for future generations, that kind of protection really comes from a local ordinance. And that's why it's called the Local Register of Historic Places. And this is a part of the development code at the city of Gainesville, section 30, and it spells out all the different criteria that we look at before we go and say, yes, this property is eligible for designation or it's not. The differences between a contributing and a non-contributing structure, when you have a historic district, that is done for the purposes of trying to save a neighborhood as a whole. And so you have, and the character of that neighborhood. So you have boundaries that go around a group of buildings and resources, and everything in that boundary, everything is considered in the historic district. So there is some level of review for everything within that district, even a vacant lot, because the whole point of having a district is to help promote quality infill development, quality design that speaks to the character of the neighborhood it is infiltrating, right? That's why you have a historic district many times, is because you really want to be able to affect good design. But there are properties within the district that would not have been eligible for designation on their own, or they don't really contribute to the historic aspects. I mean, there's always going to be, right? It's very rare that you have a historic district with more than 80 or 90% contributing structures. You're always going to have some buildings within the district area that aren't considered one of the historic buildings. So those buildings, the non-contributing structures, for our purposes, when we go to review projects and they want to apply for alterations to the building, we are much more lenient on a non-contributing structure of what can happen to them on the exterior of the building.
All right, thank you, Kathleen.
I hope some of this makes sense. I mean, I could talk to you about historic preservation all day long, but Chelsea and Sarah were like, no.
Chelsea,
Yes.
do you want to hold questions for Kathleen after your presentation, or when?
Yes, unless someone has like a burning question, we can hold questions for the end. If that's, Mr. Chair, if that's what you prefer.
Yeah, please.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Kathleen. I'm going to move on, stand by for the end. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions for you. All right, so demolition by neglect and dangerous buildings. Pictured it as here is a house that, as you can see, there's fire damage, there's water damage. It's put it up, it's since been demolished. But this is kind of an example of what a house looks like when it is to the point where it probably would be better off being demolished. Though this isn't always the case, you know, some homes in this state can be repaired. Overall, it is illegal in Gainesville for the owner of a property to keep, maintain, or allow their property to stay dangerous. So if you remember that map, actually, I'll move on. This map right here, the red is where all the dangerous boarded structures are in Gainesville. These includes commercial too as well, but that's kind of the distribution. But when this happens, a homeowner must either one, demolish their struck home, or they must repair the violation, or they're going to stay in violation. There's going to be a lien, or eventually the city will take over the home and demolish it themselves or sell it to a developer to demolish. What makes a home dangerous is when interior, this is straight from the code, when interior walls lean or buckle, floors or roof are not able to hold weight, there's fire, wind, or other damage, dilapidated, unsanitary, conditions that cause sickness, like light, air, and inadequate sanitation, likelihood pieces fall on people. So pretty much anything that's a health or safety hazard. This includes if a house is vacant and not secure from trespassers. That can also create a safety hazard. So again, this is the map of all dangerous and boarded structures. So code enforcement found 170 buildings dangerous since 2011. So this includes commercial. Again, that was 58 residential, single family residential structures dangerous. And then 40 of these overall are still categorized as dangerous. Again, for single family residential structures, there's 11 that are currently considered dangerous. not included in this map, but also to note is that there are houses that may be dilapidated, have roof problems, but they just have major code violations, but they're in risk of moving into that dangerous designation if those code violations don't get resolved. These buildings are at risk of eventually being possessed. All these buildings have at one point, not already, been in danger of being possessed by the city or sold by a homeowner to a developer. I'm gonna talk a little bit about what this City of Gainesville Comprehensive Plan says, but it found pretty much that many of these houses, which contributed to the local history, have been demolished due to neglect in the Fifth Avenue, Pleasant Street, Porter's Quarters, and Spring Hill neighborhoods specifically. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide. So I'm going to go over this really quickly. Between 1982 and 2012, there were 91 buildings demolished in the Fifth Avenue neighborhood, and this was 23% of all housing stock. And this is one reason why Fifth Avenue is not a designated historic. Pleasant Street, which is a designated historic district, had 55 buildings demolished between the years of 1986 and 2012. And the comprehensive plan, written in the comprehensive plan, it says that demolition by neglect jeopardizes the Pleasant Street Historic District standing as a historic district. And this is the case for other neighborhoods too. So Porter's Quarters isn't a historic district, but like Fifth Avenue, the comprehensive plan found that historic district potential is probably non-existent because of the plethora of buildings that were demolished in the 1980s. Spring Hill also found that the existing historic districts in the Spring Hill neighborhood are at risk currently by development pressure going on from the university, Depot Park, and all right. So I'm going to talk really quick about what there's out there, and then I'm going to turn the time over to Ms. Helen Harris. So I'll skip talking about the City of Gainesville programs because Ms. Harris will talk about it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what GRU has and other nonprofit programs. So GRU has their LEAP program. This program provides energy upgrades to homeowners who make a low income or below. And then other nonprofit programs are the Community Weatherization Coalition. They also do energy upgrades to homes. Rebuilding Together does home repair for seniors and people that make below a certain income. Community Action Agency also does home weatherization. And then Habitat for Humanity does some critical home repair. All right. I'm going to now turn the time to Ms. Harris. Again, Ms. Harris, I want to thank you for staying late tonight to talk with us about housing rehab programs. Our advisory board is very focused on housing, and I think from what I gathered from the July meeting, they were very interested in hearing more about what programs housing and community development offers. So I will now turn the time to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. My name is Helen Harris, and I am the Housing and Community Development Supervisor. I oversee our housing programs here at the City of Gainesville. So just want to talk a little bit about the rehab programs that we offer here at the city. So it's our housing rehabilitation program, and we provide assistance to eligible homeowners. Eligible meaning that all of our programs are income eligible. And the programs are to provide assistance to correct health and safety violations in their home. Sometimes the homeowners are not able to provide that much needed assistance. So we do look to preserve those homes and to help those families out with making those much needed repairs. We do look at the repair of unsafe and unsanitary housing conditions, such as roofing, structural damage, electrical, plumbing, and heating systems. Sometimes they only need a roof. So we will just, look at at that roof, and then we will make that roof replacement. It's not a roof repair, we just replace the entire roof. And then in some cases, it's just they need, the whole home needs to be rehabbed. So depending on what needs to be done in that home, then we will do the rehab to the home. Well, in some instances, we have a rehab specialist that kind of goes out and do a full inspection of the home. And if he determines that the house is not feasible for rehab, then he will make a recommendation that we move that homeowner into what we call a house replacement program. And in that program, we look at completely demolishing the home and then building a new home on the same site. So that is our house replacement program. The program criteria are slightly different. They still have to be income eligible, but there is a lien that's placed on the property. So all of our programs will have a lien, but depending on which program the homeowner falls into will determine how long that lien will be placed on that property. So again, they're all income eligible. So they have to fall within, meet that income eligible criteria. They have to have owned and occupied the property. But as it relates to the roof replacement, there is no time period as to how long they need to have owned and occupied the property, because we want to make certain that the roof it is a sound roof. So that's one of the main components of the property. So we don't have a requirement as to you have to have owned and occupied the property for 5 years for the roof replacement program. They can have moved in, been in there for 1 year, and they can be eligible for that roof replacement program. But for the rehab of the home, they have to have owned and occupied the property for 5 years. Those are, I'm sorry?
Harris, I had a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Respect to the major house replacement and rehabilitation. Right now, we have the community partners that were mentioned earlier, but since this is part of the GCRA, and we are getting county dollars as well as it being a city department and we're getting city dollars, has anyone reached out to the county and or in your capacity or in your department, Ms. Harris, has anyone reached out to the county and partnered with them and their rapid rehousing program for those folks that are not deemed to be able to have rehabilitation, et cetera, that need to get into rehousing or what have you?
So the city was partnering with the county for rapid rehousing up until last year when we reallocated many of our federal dollars, our state and federal dollars for the emergency rental assistance programs. The city did have a interlocal agreement with the county where the city provided some funds and the county actually administered the rapid rehousing program. And this was strictly for housing the homeless. We did have partnerships, but that interlocal agreement has expired. And then we also had to reallocate those funds for the, because of the pandemic. So both the city and the county had to reallocate their SHIP dollars for the rental assistance programs that we both governments had to administer.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. But generally, that is what our homeowner rehab program entails. There is the liens that are placed on the property just to kind of, the city does have a investment that we put into the property. So that is our way of maintaining that investment. But for the city's investment is that there is a lien that's placed on the property. But as long as the homeowner meets those conditions that they're going to maintain the property, they're going to live on the property for that compliance period, then after the if it's a roof, then it's a 5-year compliance period. If it's rehab, there's a 10-year compliance period. And then if it's the actual house replacement, there's a 20-year compliance period. But once those compliance periods are satisfied, then there will be a satisfaction of mortgage and the homeowner has fulfilled their obligation. A lot of times families do not apply to the programs because they feel that the city wants to take their properties, but that is not the case. And I'm continuously advocating for these programs because they are much needed. They are needed. Families need to have those repairs done, but they are a little bit leery of city government. And some of the conversations that I have with families is that, well, I don't want to apply because I don't want liens placed on my property. But my conversations, I just try to educate families. And when I'm having those conversations, you know, what I communicate is that if you're going to be in the property, you plan on living there, you know, these are repairs that are needed. And if you cannot afford them, then I would encourage one to go ahead, make an application, get those much needed repairs so that you can live safe and healthy. You know, this is for the benefit of the family. It's not like we're doing extreme home makeover. We're just trying to make those much needed repairs to some of these homes that are older. A lot of them are older homes and the families are on fixed incomes and they just cannot afford to get that new roof placed on that home or get that new heating and AC unit because, you know, those things are costly. So that's kind of the gist of what our homeowner rehab program is. You know, we do have funds available. We are, our application cycle is open continuously. We do have a waiting list. So we just take the applications, we process the applications in the order in which they are received.
Ms. Harris,
Yes, sir.
how long is that waiting list looking like right now, right about now? Estimate.
Right about now, I believe we have about maybe 25 on the waiting list. We will be putting out an advertisement, should go out in the Gainesville Sun and the Gainesville Guardian, I think next week, that we do have funds available. We have CDBG, home, and SHIP dollars that we will be advertising. But we can, you know, we process the applications. But because there is a waiting list, we have a small staff. We only have one rehab specialist who does go out and do the inspections. He has to monitor the construction jobs as they're ongoing. So although we have a waiting list and we're processing the applications, we have one staff person that does the intake. So it's a waiting list, but we do get to the applications as quickly as we can. We have a, it's called Neighborly, is our online application portal. So it is an electronic application. If we have folks that are unable to access that application portal because it is online, we have a staff member here in the office that can work with a neighbor to get their application done on the online portal. So, you know, because our staff is so small, then sometimes it may take a while to get the application in and get it processed, but we do try to get to everybody as quickly as possible.
Ms. Harris, Chelsea, if you can indulge us 1 second, because she presented a lot of information from the housing department. Does anybody here have any questions for Ms. Harris? Mr. Palmer, Member Palmer.
Hi. Yeah, just a quick clarification. You're discussing things that are currently in the works and not exactly not parts of the program we're evaluating at this point. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Great.
I have a question as well, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Ms. Fox.
Good evening. My question is, I have some questions about the LEAP program. Does that fall under the GCRA?
That's GRU.
Yeah, the GRU program. She mentioned that last I asked, they said they no longer had it.
So it's a great question. So the GCRA does not do the LEAP program, but they do have it. But because of COVID, they did put it on pause. So you are correct. They put it on pause, but they're hoping to bring it back up this next year.
Okay, and I have one other question. all programs are available. Is there a income base that you decide on if you're going to be able to get any help from any of your programs? If you said those programs are available, is that correct?
So as far as the programs here in housing and community development, they are based on income. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mhm.
Income eligible criteria, I believe she said.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, can you send that out? Can I get a copy? But I know we've met several times on other things.
Yes.
And my,
I'll send it to Chelsea and then she can get the income chart to the board.
okay, I met with Chelsea and
I got it.
last month. And my last question is the AIRS program. We talked about, I think that I read that in the packet a few months ago. So is that program up and running?
Yeah, so we have an attorney, we're hiring Three Rivers and then another attorney firm, Lippis Mathias. And we're finalizing contracts with them. And then once they sign the contract, we start sending applications with them to work with applicants.
Okay, thank you.
You have any other question, Dr. Fox?
No, I'm done. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. So, Ms. Helen, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
First off, what I want to do is I want to give you some kudos real quick. One is I don't know if people picked up on it, but she said something very introspective and was very poignant. You were saying that people that are wanting to get help and getting rehabilitative services, Helen, you were talking about whether it be emergency roof repair, minor rehabilitation, major rehabilitation, replacement, or disaster mitigation. You said a lot of times people are scared to deal with local government. They are apprehensive, they have angst. And you said you reframe the issue for them about why it's in their best interest and take away the fears. I think as a public servant, which you are charged with, that's extremely important. And I love how you reframe that because many times people fear what they don't understand. And we sometimes need to do a lot more of that. And I'm hoping that we, especially Chelsea, as GCRA, maybe can help with that and how important it is for many of these people that are in need of these services. Helen, I just wanted to give you a shout out on it. I think that's amazing that you do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the other thing I had a question on, I want to go back to something earlier, critical home repair. So people that are we also in the job of building more community partners, adding to the list, or Helen, or can we do a more job, bring other people to the plate that we haven't thought of before outside of the box? Or are you all open to, does it have to go through like request for proposal, or are you all open to more people coming to the table to help out?
I would say that we would probably have to do requests for proposals and working with our procurement department.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, I have
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Member.
what about electrical repairs? I have somebody approached me about that the other day. I told her I wasn't sure if this program, if there's a program that will help a senior with electrical repair. Do we do that at all?
We do. Yes, our rehab program, it does address electrical repairs as well.
So they need to contact you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I will have them. Thank you so much, Ms. Harris.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So Chelsea, we turn it back to you. Helen, does that conclude your presentation?
It does. Yes, it does. I'll stick around though if there are any other questions come up.
Okay, and then I'm going to have some questions for Kathleen, but Chelsea, I'm turning it back over to you.
All right, thank you. I'll try to move the rest of the presentation along. I know we've been going for half an hour now, so I will speed up so we can have more time for questions and discussions. I want that to be the bulk of this. All right, so all of the reasons I wanted Ms. Harris here to talk about what they do is I want us as an advisory board, or you as an advisory board, to think about what are some gaps in services and how can the GCRA rehabilitation program complement the existing program that HCD has. Maybe we can kind of fill in some gaps that are needed in the community that other programs aren't touching on. So some gaps in services, this is just some ideas. We're missing a program that serves middle income earners in addition to low income earners. There's a need for a program that rehabilitates vacant homes and or non-steaded residential homes. There's a need for a program that focuses on homes at risk of demolition by neglect, and there's a need for programs that rehabilitate boarded up and dangerous buildings, and specifically boarded up homes. And then there's a need for a program that complements the heirs property program. The HCD's program does complement the heirs property program, but I do want to note when I was looking at the data for homes built before 1978, I was looking through, the list, and what popped out to me that many of the homes that are considered dangerous or have a major code violation and built before 1978 are also in heirs property. And so I think this could be a great, if someone came to do our rehab program or maybe housing's rehab program and they're not eligible because it's an heirs property, we can put them through the heirs property program first and then move them on towards one of the rehab programs. Okay, so after July's presentation, you came to us asking for more data and more information about the state of historic and dangerous homes in the district. So what I'm presenting to you is just a recommendation for program guidelines and eligibility requirements based on the comments that you made as an advisory board at July's meeting and kind of the direction I saw your thought process going. So if I don't get it right, please let me know. We can always make tweaks to this. At the end, I still have some questions for you to help me continue to learn more from you about what you believe is needed in our GCRA neighborhoods. Overall, according to the community engagement we hosted around the reinvestment plan 2 years ago, we found that there is a need for a program that has a mission to preserve the original character defining architectural elements of neighborhoods and a program that prevents the demolition of single family homes. The plan's objective, and I think what this program's vision needs to be, is that the program should support housing, so that this is language specifically from the reinvestment plan, specifically so that it maintains the culture and population of neighborhoods long-term. I recommend that if the board desires to move the program past the historic districts, which is what was recommended at the last meeting, to refocus the program on dangerous buildings only. So not necessarily homes with major code violations, but the worst of the worst, homes with dangerous designations, because these are the homes that are most likely to be demolished within the next few years. I also recommend that we focus the program on the neighborhoods that are most at risk of losing their historic identity. Those that are facing development pressure from the university and downtown area. And this is just because we have such limited funding for this. So I recommend the eligible areas of this program be Northwest 5th Avenue, Porter's Quarters, Pleasant Street, Spring Hill, and Sugar Hill. And again, when you get into your discussion, I'm more than happy to kind of hear other ideas of where you think the eligible areas are. But this is what I recommend based on the neighborhoods that are facing the most development pressures. So I'm also recommending that program applications be offered on a tiered or a priority system that considers the income of individuals who apply, their homestead status, and the historical significance the home is to the building it is in. And it's kind of hard to determine, how do we know if a building or if a house is historically significant or not? So one way, in discussions with Ms. Kaufman, she recommended that we kind of create some priority for homes that do have that historic designation. We could help homeowners get that historic designation, so then we know that it is house that's significant to the neighborhood, and they can kind of go through our program from there. This is just a suggestion. This would be a great way for us to determine, again, if a house contributes historically to the neighborhood. And as you saw on the maps I presented, what is considered significant is really individual for each neighborhood. You saw some neighborhoods had primary development in the 1940s, some 1920s, some 1960s and 70s. So that's why we're kind of need to build some parameters around what areas we want to protect, and B, what type of homes we want to protect.
Mhm.
So this brings us to our next discussion is the budget. So we don't have a lot. Again, this is a pilot year, 2022. So for 2022, we have $77,000. It depends what the repair is, but repairs can cost anywhere from $2,000 on the low end to $30,000 or more. A lot of these repairs are going to be things like roof, foundation, other remedial health and safety type. So I think what our plan is to begin implementing this is we just need to get it moving forward, begin implementing in 2022. And then as a board, you can begin thinking of ways we can consider what changes to make for the program for 2023. We'll go over at the end of 2022, we'll go over lessons learned and ideas for improving the program. And then perhaps consider moving past just dangerous designation and also maybe expanding the program to also include homes with major and minor code violations, or move the program outside the neighborhoods that we had recommended the last slide. All right, so the final recommendation is to approve the Historic Home Stabilization Grant Program as presented, once approved by the city attorney as to form and legality. Some questions I want you to consider today is what type of impact we want to make this year with the limited funding we have. What could be potential expansions if we didn't want to implement certain things this year, but we can implement in a future year? And do we want to provide incentives for homeowners to get that historic designation on their home, so we can be sure what we're specifically affecting? Again, I didn't make changes to the actual program guidelines and documents because I really wanted to hear from you before I made a bunch of changes to the final program. Just if you're okay with us moving forward, I would appreciate if you included that in your motion, or if you wanted me to, after today's discussion, if you wanted us to bring it back in November, please make that in your motion as well. And it seems like I read the recommendation wrong, so I'm going to read it again just for the record. Recommendation is for the GCRI director to the advisory board is to hear the update from staff and make recommendations regarding.
So,
all right.
Chelsea.
Yes.
So before we get started, folks, I want to bring something to everybody's attention real quick. If you can, Mike, I might need your help. You're a realtor hat. I need to put that on for a minute. We had a discussion earlier this year at Porter's. I think you were there. I think Jacob was there. Some of us. Some of our members and residents, and some people say neighbors, I've met with them on a continual basis, and I believe GCRI staff, Mr. Dahl, and some others may have also met. I think Chelsea, Mo have met with Porter. The reason I want to talk about Porter's as a prime example is Chelsea brought up something majorly interesting, in that encroachment from the university upon a historic neighborhood. The first football game played in Porter's, that neighborhood is prime for not only gentrification, but encroachment of the university. It's already being threatened. So I just want to bring something to your attention that we're talking about a budget, and Chelsea, I know it's $77,000. I don't think that's enough to make meaningful and effective impact. So where I'm going with this, I'm just throwing it out there, and we can always, I want us to ask questions, but the reason I want to is because when we got a list, Commissioner Duncan Walker, myself, and others were talking to many folks out there, and talking to them. And I believe the assistant, I don't want to speak for Ms. Bowie and others, have had meetings with them. I think that in our budget, we could probably do something to be far more meaningful and effective for that community as a real pilot. Now, that's not taken away from anybody else's neighborhood. It's not cherry picking. I'm just giving it as an idea. What it can do is we have 8 more years and we have lots of areas we can affect. I think we should start somewhere up where everybody knows Porters, where we can say, we're taking this year, we're taking a pot of money and we're doing something, just as food for thought. And I remember when we got done talking about it, whether that be with Ms. Williams, several of the ministers out there, and with Commissioner Duncan Walker, we were talking about maybe almost like $300,000 worth of stuff that we could do to impact, whether it's putting up paint, but we're talking about having a real impact in Porters. Food for thought, and I just want to hear from all of you all. Just, that's what I wanted to share. So it's open discussion.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Chelsea, we're gonna have some discussion real quick.
yeah, I think I mean, I do think you bring up a very valid point. When I see, one of the things that I want to figure out about this program, I think it's a very interesting program, but if you're looking at, 30,000 per repair, somebody comes in with a non-homesteaded 50-50 match, they take 30,000 out of the budget. We're almost halfway through it on fixing one house that is probably not our target demographic, the non-homesteaded houses. Maybe, unless it's something that could theoretically qualify for the heirs project or the heirs program and qualify for this, then I think it's like the perfect thing for this program. So I think that it's kind of a funny spot because I wouldn't really want to see a developer come in and get a $30,000 discount off of one of these houses just so that they'll maintain it, because there's a lot of
Do you see that loophole?
Yeah, I saw that too.
What?
Do you see that loophole that the developer will try to do that?
Do I see that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Or could you envision it?
well, I mean, I guess I see it as a non-homesteaded house required to sell to be homesteaded with a 50-50 match that needs significant structural foundation work or something like that,
It's almost like free money.
Yeah, it seems like it could be free money, and at least that's, how I am kind of seeing this. I don't know if
I'm with you.
income requirements are going to come in here, but I guess what I'm probably more worried about is that if we burn up our budget on tier 3 things, people who I would argue probably need this work the most, the homesteaded, low income, or 100% match people, I personally would love to see some sort of a prioritization, or somehow we're going to allocate the budget for prioritize towards tier 1, tier 2, and then potentially into those tier 3. So, maybe
Maybe
I have a question.
if I'm hearing you on tier 3, maybe tier 3 is like it's not that it's not there, but it's something we could always come back to. Not at this time.
I think if we did bump up the budget, which honestly, I think 77 is a little shy to do that. I think us going after the tier 3 and being able to do some of the tier 3 and address the heirs properties in addition to some of these tier 3 programs, if there are ones that would fall in tier 3 and our heirs programs, that to me seems like taking actionable steps to maintain a historic family owned property and put significant effort towards something like that. And if somebody's just going to come in, renovate this thing, and then turn around and rent it out and then get a $30,000 discount on it, I mean, yeah, we are maintaining the program, but I think that kind of defeats a little bit of the spirit of maintaining the neighborhoods, the historic preservation that we're looking for. Yeah, the neighborhood preservation we're looking at as part of the components of this.
Number 5.
So the budget you're saying is $77,000 for the year?
For fiscal year budget 2022.
Oh, that's ridiculous. You can hardly do anything with $77,000 if you do. I think all of us have noticed everything has gone up. so very much. And construction supplies is out of the roof. Things that you used to buy for $3 or $4, lumber, is now $10 and $12 for one. So I think that's a little tiny bit of money. I don't think you can even in the lowest tier, I don't think we could do 3 homes properly.
Just for the sake of doing some round math, just off the top of my head, I mean, you know, most of the homes we're talking about, as far as I understand them, are probably in the generally 800 to 1,000 square foot. They don't tend to be really big homes, but to maintain historical character, they tend to be steel roofs. I mean, back of the number math, if we did 12,000, if it was a $12,000 roof, that means we can get 6.5 roofs for if we just max out this program only on
How many
roofs.
how many could you do for 300,000?
I
don't do math in my head, so.
Yeah.
Do we have money to increase the
That's
budget?
25. We could potentially do 25.
We do.
That would be good.
Roofs and put around 12,000 into 25.
That's why Member Foxall was saying we should probably look at bumping up the dollars.
Yeah, because most of the houses in quarters are board houses, except for the one that was recently built probably in 90 when they did quarters, oaks and oaks. But most of those houses are board houses. It's constructed out of board. And they do have the tin roof. And the biggest thing, and I'm speaking from experience, because my husband's family is quarters and they have property there. It would take much more than $12,000 if you did the roof and all the board and the plumbing is ruined. Then you're looking at least $25,000 or $30,000 per house, because the people who live there are on 6 income, number one. And I don't know if most of you know, most of the seniors who worked in kitchens and laundries and stuff, their Social Security check is $782. And they have major problems, but how much can you do with $782 a month? Now they make it do and they neglect the repairs because they just can't afford it. But I don't think 12,000, if you fix the roof and everything else around is no good, we'll just be spinning our wheels.
So let me ask you, Member Fox, if we increase that, so you said for 300,000, we could do 25 homes. So we're just giving some roundabout numbers, but if you want to think of some numbers or dollar wise in your head, I'm gonna go to Jacob real quick and come back to you. Is that okay?
Oh,
Can I, real quick point of clarification? So we have 58 declared dangerous as of 2011 and 11 declared dangerous as of 2021.
I'll clarify that. So there's 11 that are currently declared dangerous, that are currently on the list. And I pulled this data in July. So
that's fine.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, if you're all right, I'd like to address some things that were being discussed, just really quick, just to clarify the conversation a little bit. First, I do want to point out that, yeah, 77,000 is not a lot, but this is what we have allocated from the City Commission. This is just for the year 2022. So there's definite potential to increase the amount for 2023 based on the number of applications we received. And then I also want to note that the program will be written so that if a home is vacant, there's currently no one living there, and an investor or a developer, they buy the home, they want to flip the house, they want to fix it up, there's going to be a requirement that they sell the home within a certain number of years, probably within a year or 6 months. They sell the home to someone intending to reside and homestead the home. And then that person will have to sign an agreement, whoever buys it from the developer, that they are going to stay and live in that home for a certain period of time. So we're still working that out with legal. The reason being is there's a lot of dilapidated vacant homes as well as owner occupied homes. So that's kind of the thought in that. Thank you.
Chelsea, one thing I want to bring, so it's our job to provide advice of what we're doing. I think what I'm hearing from some of our colleagues, and I haven't heard from Jacob yet, but is that we're wanting to at least recommend that the commission consider putting more toward an impact. And I know I've talked to Commissioner Duncan Walker, and I know that it's the passion of this commission to make an impact when it comes to housing. And I'm hearing, I don't know if it's the appetite of my colleagues. I'll wait till we have that discussion. But Jacob, do you have some ideas?
I agree with focusing on a neighborhood. I think that's a way to do a pilot program, and then the next year,
Do another
if it
one?
went really well, find out what right, what went wrong, but focusing on one neighborhood, we can find problems that arise.
We
And
have,
then learn from those and let them go to a bigger neighborhood than Porter's and find out what's going on.
the one thing, and I think it was Chelsea, it was you, maybe last year sometime, we were talking about neighborhood stabilization. And I don't think, it was you, Chelsea, it was you that was talking about stabilizing a neighborhood was important. This is what we're talking about. So to Member Fox's point is, what can we really do with 77? Nothing, right? What,
Nothing.
but what's some ideas that you have, Member Mitchell?
I think it isn't necessarily an idea, but it's a frame of just remembering what people wanted. They wanted more affordable housing. And so with that perspective, the historic aspect of the value that houses have in our community kind of adds a little bit of leverage to how we can get funding to them. I feel that an aggressive approach to funding is necessary if we want to maintain the housing stock. But I have a little bit of reservations about making sure that they're still available when we talk about people, affordable, when we're talking about people flipping them and reselling them and renting them out, because people wanted affordable housing. And so we need to keep our eye on the ball. The repairs will help maintain the stock. And then I think even more money would help us fight against the encroachment of developers, because they have vast resources and abilities to influence things with money. And so we need to be kind of prepared for that if something comes up to where we need to be able to say, well, we can do this as well to preserve our stock and, of course, grow the stock.
I think what's going to be important for us, Jacob, I want to get your thoughts on Mike, brother, Member Palmer. When we're talking about people flipping, obviously it's not our intent to enrich them, but we're talking about, for example, Porter's. Member Fox is exactly correct. You're talking about a lot of seniors that live there, that's all they know, that's their home. And affordable for them is, I want to make sure, I don't have some catastrophe happen in my home. I want to make it safe. I want to make it livable, a better standard and quality of life. And I don't think that we can give that quality of life with 77,000. I could be wrong, but what I'm hearing from Member Edie, what I'm hearing from Member Palmer, Member Fox, I'm hearing all this, we want to make that impact. Member Norquist, how about yourself? What do you think?
Well, I have a couple of questions. And so what I was wondering about is there a prioritization, and are some of these houses that we're talking about owner occupied that fit into this category? And if they are, should they not be prioritized for the funding? I think so. I would certainly be in favor of making sure that the owner occupied get priority. And then again, if there are no applications that are coming in from them, then again, maybe there's an opportunity for a developer or somebody that's going to come in and fix up the house, sell it under the conditions that are being described. I think it is important that they be homesteaded. I think that is a key component, and I'm glad to hear that. So those are my thoughts based on what I'm hearing. And then the other concern that I have is, as somebody goes in and redevelops or repairs this home, what is the market value of that house? And does it remain as affordable housing? And so I would have that concern as to whether or not it remains affordable when somebody comes in, gets the funding for this program, then who is the one that is actually able to afford that house? And so that would be another question that I would raise. And I don't have an answer. It's just something that I thought of.
It's kind of like what you have. So I was having a discussion with one of the city commissioners. It's like, we want to do what's right, but it's kind of like, well, I don't want gentrification, but I want to fix up the blight. But it happens. It's kind of like, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too, but we got to do something. But the unintended consequences, I don't think any of us want to fix somebody's house and then make it unaffordable. I don't think that's the goal. But I think Member Fox was saying, I know, Miss Ruby's house is probably, and I'm just giving a generalization. I'm not saying Miss Ruby's house is not safe. I'm just giving an example for anybody out there I said Miss Ruby's house is not safe. I'm just giving an example of somebody I know that lives out there. Miss Williams, to me, she said, I have a situation, I need something fixed up in my home. We want to address those, whether it be whatever it is, right? I agree with you. To your point, I didn't think about that. Owner occupied, right? Very important. So we want to hit the ones that we can hit. But then you're going to have the folks, and we're never going to get everybody. We're going to say, well, I rent, and what about me? Well, I think that's what I want to defer to the Helen Harris's, Chelsea. But I think what we should do is maybe have some narrowly tailored, confined things. To your point, Member Norquist and Member Palmer. Yes, sir.
One question towards some of this, just again for some of the clarification. 40 of those that are still categorized as dangerous are do you have any sense of whether any of those are owner occupied?
I do not have the data. I did look at a lot of them are heirs properties.
Okay.
But I don't know if that would mean they're owner occupied or not. So I don't have that, but I can get that if you guys want to continue the conversation.
Yeah. Member Fox, go ahead, Member Fox.
I mean, just personally, I think if we can find the places that are owner occupied and dangerous, that's where we need to like prioritize is number one, that person needs this.
Member Norquist, I'm going to come to Member Fox. If we could come up with some working together, I want to crack a motion with some of the things that you just brought up with owner occupied, homesteading, et cetera, so we can have a narrowly tailored set of criteria of who we want to impact for this pilot program. And then I'm gonna try to think of dollars and funding with Member Palmer and Mr. Ide and whoever else, and Member Mitchell, try to bring us to consensus here. Member Fox.
I was just thinking about the budget, but I have them in the notes. That's okay. I'll
Okay. So, because I like what people I know are starting to operate with combined. If you could come up with, can you craft some language of the criteria you're looking for with owner occupied, et cetera, and some other things so we can really have. Ms. Vidal. Ms. Vidal has her hand up.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to mention that, again, this was a pilot year. We need to kind of see what the response is going to be to the program, but we definitely intend to do major marketing around this and direct mail as well. The money that we have budgeted, if it gets to the point where we think we have applications in the queue that will, dry up that 77,000, what we would do is come back to you with an item saying, basically how the program has been going, and make a recommendation for additional funding to be added. That would then, if you all recommend and agree with that, we would take it to the city commission as a budget transfer. And so that is something that we can do kind of mid-year. If that helps the conversation at all, I just wanted to add that.
Director Vidal, I have a question for you. So rather than because Chelsea, I'll come back to Chelsea real quick. Rather than having all the eligible areas, I think if with that 77,000, would it be easier for us to target like this pilot year and see what the response is from like Porters? Just as an aside, and it doesn't have to be Porters. I'm just giving an example. Whatever the appetite of the board is.
I mean, personally, I don't know. This may get me in trouble at home, but I do think we should leave it. I do think we should leave it open to other neighborhoods. I think limiting it to Porters. I mean, if you look at Duval, there's a bunch of homes in there that
Spring Hill as well.
Right there, yeah, Duval and Spring Hill, and so I think there's a lot of.
I want anybody to know that I was not trying to discriminate against anybody. I was trying to get us big impact. Yeah. That's a good point.
I understand that. I really like.
So does anybody want to move the recommendation, or does anybody want to put some criteria? Because I think to your point, having this criteria narrowly tailored, because I like the idea of owner occupied, but maybe focusing on tier 3, not so much tier 1 and tier 2? Is what I was hearing from you, Member Palmer?
Wait, focusing on tier 3?
Tier 1 and tier 2 and not so much tier 3 right now at the moment from what you were saying earlier?
In like there.
Yeah, to me,
Unless-
so to me, the way I'd like to see this is some sort of I'd like to see a little more of how we're gonna prioritize within the tiers. And based around Member Norquist's conversations, I'd like to see the prioritization within the tiers have some sort of, potentially a ranking category or something that
So
looks for owner occupied and dangerous first, then, maybe we discuss which one of those drops out next, then pick.
So if you and Member Norquist want to craft a motion or move something,
But they have to be owner occupied, right?
right,
Okay.
and homesteaded.
And homestead.
Well,
I don't want to speak for Member Norquist.
I don't think you could homestead without being owner occupied.
Touche.
So I guess we kind of are hitting that with a homestead. I understand. Correct.
Yeah, again, I think there has to be interest in the program. So, the assumption is that the owner occupied individual is going to come forward asking for the money. If nobody's coming out asking for the money, then at that point, I think it would be open to possibly tier 3 to see how that goes, to see, we wouldn't want the city or the money to sit there and not get spent. So my hope is, and my expectation would be that the owner occupied would come forward and look for the money for the repairs.
But
And that
Joe,
we would
would
either-
you agree that we could also reach out to them knowing that those houses are already dangerous, and even
Oh,
if
yeah,
they don't, we can reach out to them saying,
Is
we know that those houses are dangerous, so we just want to make you aware of the.
Because we're reaching out to
program.
somebody that's
let
there.
me
I
can I ask
Yeah,
a
if they're homesteaded,
one quick
assume
point
that
of
they're-
question? When you guys were talking about the marketing budget to reach out to people and make people aware of this program, is that marketing budget going to come out of the 77,000, or is that separate allocation?
That is separate allocation.
Okay. So I think to Mitchell, to Member Mitchell's point, I think we should, in our marketing, make sure we're trying to target the dangerous and owner occupied as our first priority for marketing, and maybe even as we're going out and reaching to people. I mean, we know where those doors are, and I don't know, and as
I hear a motion.
yeah. So, well, I'm sort of working through how we kind
I
of.
know, I'm working with you,
filter it,
I'm being facetious.
So I would say I'd like to see staff bring this back next week or month,
Okay.
next month for the new. And I'd like to see them bring this back with a prioritization towards tier 1, tier 2, a waterfall method of trying to allocate the funds towards tier 1, tier 2, and then eventually tier 3.
So Member Palmer is moving that he would like to have the recommendation brought back to the new folks that are going to be on the board with the following recommendations. Trisha, did you get those? Okay, Trisha's got that.
Second.
And we have a motion and a proper second. Motion by Member Palmer, second by Member Norquist. Any discussion, any further? I think we discussed it all out already.
Would you like to add like 3 months in or 6 months in, if they're already out of that 77,000, to come back to ask for more funding?
Ooh. Yeah,
But
I would be open to that.
Chelsea's saying yes.
Yeah.
As part of the motion, yes, I would be very open to seeing that, then with 3 months, or as soon as it looks like.
We're going to
there's
say
not
as soon as
enough money.
possible for them.
Yeah,
That way you don't have to put a time on it.
Right.
Chelsea, would that work for staff as soon as possible for you? Would you see it was a need for you to need more money? That way you don't have a delineation of time? It's.
Yes, let me refer that to Sarah really quick, just.
Director, I'm not demoting you, Director Vidal. Sarah,
No problem. Was the question that if we feel like, or if we receive enough applications that we can see that the 77,000 is going to be eaten up before the end of the first year, that we would come back as soon as possible?
Yes.
Forward with a recommendation for budget transfer. Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it, so do you agree with the amendment?
Yes, I like that.
Okay, so we have a friendly amendment of Jacob.
Recommending that they come back to this board to ask for more funding as soon as they feel it's needed.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Tricia, you got that? Okay. Any discussion from the public? Member, colleague, Mr. Blunt? No, you can come up here. Come up to one of the microphones up here. I'm not gonna make you walk over
They have some.
there. Oh, it's clean. It's been sanitized.
Yeah.
And do we have anybody on Zoom that also out there?
That's fine.
Colleague?
Thank you. I'm very happy with what you're saying about finding out. I'm sure the next meeting staff can come back and tell you how many people, how many homesteaded residences are on the dangerous list and what areas they are in. That can help you set in your priorities. But I would like to suggest there should be a third parameter, since you're starting you're doing a pilot year and initially with limited funding, that you should also, when you look for homesteaded properties on the dangerous list, and are those people 80% or less of area median income? So you want to help the people who are least able to help themselves first. And 80% is just a number I picked. You can pick a percentage you want. And if it ever comes up, the situation that was described earlier, where a developer acquires a vacant building and comes to this program, and then you require them to sell it to somebody, that person should meet the low to moderate income needs. So that you are doing affordable housing for people who need affordable housing. And as far as areas, when you get to your 23 year and you can expand, I wish that you're over here in Pleasant Street, Fifth Avenue, Porters, then leapfrog over here to Spring Hill. What you've leaped over is Southeast Historic Residential District, AKA Power District. And I know you're looking at limits this time, but at least, if not this year, then in that expansion year, I wish you would come back and pick up and skip over the neighborhood. Oh, and I also want to thank Tricia for trying to remind me to reapply. For some reason, the system wouldn't let me. So now I can call.
I'm glad you're gonna reapply, sir. I have an idea. I don't know if you all are amenable to it. So we're talking about how we can attract more people, and Kali was just made me think of it just now. When we have people that are applying, and I lost my train of thought. We want to build more partnerships, and especially in how we advertise. Chelsea, and you don't need to make a part of the motion. I just want to make a part of your marketing campaign, especially for these. Why don't we communicate with a lot of the churches, the pastors, to let them know about this program? Because you cannot beat word of mouth. It travels faster than anything else. And people, whether it be in our barbershops, beauty salons, talking to the people, it gets out faster. And it might save you on some dollars anyway. And you can provide them something. So that's just food for thought from somebody that does marketing and advertising. So
Yeah, that's a great sense.
all right. So do we have anybody on Zoom, Tricia, that has a comment for public comment?
We do.
Okay. They have 3 minutes with the board.
Okay. Yep. Ms. Silva is here and I'm asking her to unmute.
Unmuted. Hello, thank you. There's nothing dearer to my heart than exactly what y'all are talking about. I owe huge gratitude every day to the city of Gainesville for the 1995 affordable housing auction that took almost 30 houses in Porters, Pleasant Street, Fifth Avenue primarily, that today would be long demolished as dangerous buildings long since mowed down and replaced. The city did a great job. I'm not sure if Miss Harris was on board. I know Jackie Richardson was, and several other people who did just a fantastic job. And so to me, this is so important to homeownership, of affordable housing, of rehabilitation of houses, environmentally, socially, culturally, economically, financially, in every way. It's so superior to demolishing houses and building new construction, often of inferior materials, actually. In 2016, the Historic Preservation Board and the City Community Development Committee, Standing Committee, had a huge effort going to stop demolition by neglect, particularly by speculators who are coming in and snapping up properties on the cheap, and getting the city to declare them dangerous and just mowing them down, and they would be vacant for a while, and then they would build something expensive and out of price. So I think even looking back at some of what the city already has done would be helpful. Also, I would say that today, this afternoon, the city commission talked about the American Rescue Plan funds, that now $34 million. And one item on the list was money for rehabbing houses. And but the city manager had determined that these would be $30,000 to $50,000 rehabs, mainly weatherization and roofs, that kind of thing. So that could be another source that the GCRA may want to look at. Personally, I would rather see Tier 1 be the focus of owner occupied. I think there would be plenty of those to quickly use up the funds that are available. And I think there are a lot of problems with the flippers, the developers who would not be inclined to do a full rehab, as was done on our houses in the affordable housing auction, and then sell them for less than they could have gotten somewhere else. Sure. Is that my 3 minutes?
3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
So, is there anybody else for discussion on Zoom? All right, seeing none, bring it back to the board. Any further discussion?
Could we read that motion real quick? Because she brought up something.
That'd be.
Okay.
I'm all in favor of that.
So I have added a couple of words. So for staff to bring this back next month with a ranking criteria that prioritizes owner occupied and dangerous homes, and come back with funding needs as soon as they are identified.
Yeah.
Let me know if you'd like to elaborate on
No,
that.
you said that better than I would have.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. One more thing I'd like to kind of add to that, prioritize and a secondary priority towards people that are towards heirs properties. So like owner occupied, dangerous, owner occupied, whatever, and then the heirs properties, because like
It's important to narrowly tailor that. That's really important to do that.
And I really think that the heirs properties and maintaining ownership of the families that have owned them for a while is one of the biggest, or the lack of maintenance in those programs is one of the biggest contributing factors into the.
I have a question for Sarah Vidal. Sarah,
Yes, sir.
do you have any ability to like, once we measure this program, like the next year, to have like a measurement of return on investment, maybe not necessarily the year of the pilot program, but way to keep track on what the impact of this program was and what that looked like for return on investment, et cetera? Is this something that could be done?
Absolutely. I mean, we can set up some sort of matrix to really kind of judge how effective the program has been. Typically with a matching grant, one easy way is, for the CRA dollars that were invested, this many dollars were invested by homeowners for a total investment into the district. But I mean, I think the biggest measurement here is that, a home doesn't get demolished, right?
Right.
And so, I think we will hear from the homeowners, kind of their stories, how they've, fallen into this situation. And I honestly think it's going to be a great way to lead people to other services as well that the city offers. So I love your excitement about the heirs property program and how this can complement that. And so we will definitely be kind of, using that angle with the heirs property folks to go ahead and apply for this if it's an issue with their home. So we're excited to kind of have that first step, right, to get the heirs situation resolved, and then to be able to help even more if they're in one of these categories.
I will certainly say, Sarah, Chelsea has made me a believer in neighborhood stabilization and housing. She's made me a believer.
Hey, Sarah, you think we can also consider the appreciation increase on the value of those properties after the repairs? There's another way to return on investment.
Yes, we can do that as well and watch how the values change.
So we're going to call for Jacob. Sorry.
Since we have the request to ask for more funding, should we add Duval?
Oh,
Is Duval not included?
I thought
It is included.
I thought.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Chelsea, do we add Duval to the list of eligible areas?
So I had recommended the neighborhoods that are most at risk from outside development. So that's why Duval was not listed. Also, Duval's homes are more 1960s, 50s through 70s. So that's why I did not leave Duval on the list, but that is up to you, the advisory board.
I do want to give you one, something else. North Lincoln Heights is another one that you had a lot of dangerous homes in, and that's where I live. So
I personally, I think including more things that may get me in trouble, but
go ahead.
I think there obviously is a path of gentrification that is happening. I think one of the biggest things to accomplish what you've said multiple times, Armando, is seeing real quality services moving into East Gainesville.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we have a higher housing base in Duval, overall type of housing, improvements there, more people being able to live there, then I think when people are doing the math to see those emergency services, those grocery stores, it will include Duval as well. And so if there's a higher basis and overall property improvement there, I think it'll have
right. But to Chelsea's point, I think she's talking about the impacts most being entrenched upon right now. And I think that did I misunderstand you with that? The ones that are the biggest threat to gentrification, et cetera, is ones you have listed. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So to your point earlier, Mike, is you wanted to have the areas most inclusive of everybody. So we're going to go with that route. Is there any more arguments? Anybody have anything else?
I wanted clarification as well, Chelsea. You're also kind of alluding to the idea that houses in Duval are younger and probably are more higher quality than some of the other areas.
Yes, that and there's the existing housing, the program that Helen, Ms. Harris had presented. There's existing rehab programs, and this program is focused on preserving historic homes, and that's where the majority. But it depends because you could consider a house built in the 60s as historic, but it's not. Those houses aren't necessarily threatened by losing the history of those neighborhoods. Duval's history isn't threatened right now, for example, but Porter's is. That's the point we're making.
You have Sugar Hill and Spring Hill, which Evelyn's point is North Lincoln Heights. Those homes are also older and historic. You may want to consider North Lincoln Heights.
Okay, if you put that in the recommendation, we can consider whatever the advisory board would prefer.
I have no objection.
All right, thank you. Can we add North Lincoln Heights to that, please? One in the neighborhood? Anybody else? All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody disagree, say same like sign. All right, motion passes. All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna speed it up a little bit. All right. I will not ask any more questions. Rebecca Mondo. What's next item? Trish, I need your guide. Where are we at?
We are on page 6, item 210450, business improvement grant annual update.
What she said. There you go. All right, we're gonna be page 6. Item 210450, business improvement annual grant. Who will be presenting on that? Is it Chelsea? Oh, Daniel Blumberg. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Blumberg. You gonna let me call you man?
Good evening. I will be presenting on this item for you this evening. May I confirm that you're able to see my screen?
I believe we are.
I think we're losing form.
We're not. No, we're good. It's fine.
Okay. He's leaving too.
Not now.
Well, the only recommendation at this point is to hear.
Oh, okay. So does anybody want to move the recommendation? Mr. Blumberg, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So good evening, board. My name is Daniel Blumberg. I'm project manager at GCRA. One of the programs that I manage is the Business Improvement Grants Program. And the Business Improvement Grant Program was presented originally to the advisory board on October 20th, 2020. And upon its recommendation to the City Commission, approved the program on November 5th of 2020. It's our intent to report back to you on all of our new programs after the first year. One of the reasons for this is that, as we've talked about earlier this evening, is that the first year is effectively a pilot of the program where we can identify what was successful and, just as importantly, what may not have worked as planned. We're happy to report that the program has been overall a success.
Daniel, can I ask a question real quick before you get moving? Trisha, for housekeeping sake, would it be better, Mr. Blumberg, for the new board to probably hear this program update, since a lot of us are leaving, just for housekeeping purposes, to move this to the next meeting? Or is it something we have to do today for not that I don't hear from you. I'm just saying, but
At the pleasure of the board.
anybody have any insight on that? Would it be better for the new incoming members to hear this program update?
I think the new incoming members need to hear it either way.
Yes.
For
So
the sanity of the 3 of us, 4 of us. who
Yes,
Potentially
so,
might send.
Mr. Member Mitchell?
The only thing that I think is missing is the input of the old board, who has a historic view of this and in terms of its progression and has more insight right now. To them, it would be new.
Well,
So I do agree that the new members should be privy to this, but I think for the old heads, there's value here.
okay. Go ahead, Mr. Blumberg, continue.
Okay, so I do promise that I will be brief in this presentation for you, as I do respect your time. So
Just do you.
no problem, thank you. The 5 primary goals of the Business Improvement Grant Program have been implemented. They are a consolidation of the 4 former programs, clarification to policy, concentrating impact, improvements to the administrative process, and the building of the user-friendly documents. The new tier-based system was a structural change that allows for applicants to determine very quickly the potential maximum grant funds based on their qualifying criteria. The tier system also allows for higher maximum funds across the entirety of the district. One of the implemented criteria as part of the tier system is to potentially unlock access to higher funding is being registered with the City of Gainesville as a small, local, and/or diverse business. The streamlined application allows for faster review by GCRA staff, leading to a faster turnaround time for the applicant. Turnaround time is one of the metrics that we are monitoring to ensure the program continues to assist our local businesses in a timely manner. On this map showing part of the City of Gainesville, the orange represents the GCRA boundary. The reinvestment plan identified targeted corridors within the GCRA district. These targeted corridors were the result of community feedback from community charrettes, and each section was identified by the communities needing further investment assistance. Targeted corridors along Northwest 13th Street, Waldo and Williston Road, Northeast 8th Avenue, University Avenue, Southeast 2nd and 4th Avenues, and Southeast Hawthorne Road. FY21 saw 5 approved applications. Strictly from a financial incentive perspective, the anticipated GCRA funds will yield nearly 2.8 times the amount in additional private investments on the properties. The top photo I took while they were working on repainting of the Opera House, where Harry's is downtown. The bottom photo is a rendering of the improvements to be made to the exterior of Akira Wood, where Heartwood Soundstage is located. So I'm going to apologize for this slide being very text dense.
Daniel, go back for 1 second, please. So most of these are in the downtown urban corridor. Do you have anything in East Gainesville?
So East Gainesville, I do have a current application that was just approved. It's not on this list as it's an FY22 approval, and it will be $50,000 if we're in process of getting that one finalized right now.
Daniel, the reason why I'm asking that is what I'm seeing is that I want to just make sure we can see more balance in our approach and how we pursue them if we can.
Thank you. Okay, so sorry about that. I do understand your concern about East Gainesville. I have been approached by a number of applicants and potential applicants from East Gainesville. So there are applications that are in process. They have not been finalized just yet. This coming fiscal year, we should see, as I mentioned, we have one that's been approved and is in process. And I know of at least one other that will likely be another $50,000 application.
Sorry to interrupt you, Daniel. Thank you very much.
No problem. So to recap the 3 points on this slide, the first tier 4, which was put in place to specifically assist historically listed buildings in the district to perform renovations, was successful in attracting 2 applications. Historic building renovations will nearly always be more expensive than existing building renovations, which is why this tier was instituted. Ensuring these buildings can be kept up is essential if we wish to maintain a sense of place in our community. In synopsis, the tier 4 funding level is up to $150,000 of matching grant funds if the building is listed on the National Register of Historic Places or listed on the City of Gainesville's Historic Local Register. Of the 2 historic property applications, the first one for Akira Wood was approved on the City Commission consent agenda. In contrast, the second one for Historic Masonic was pulled from consent. The Commission, after review, decided to only allow matching grant funds of $85,000, which removed from the staff recommendation funding for awnings, landscaping, new pavers for the entrance, sidewalk and patio areas, repairing and sealing of the front steps and sealing of precast concrete. Per program guidelines, awnings and canopies and restoring of original building elements are specifically allowed eligible improvements. The remainder was approved by staff as aiding in safety and aesthetics as Section 3 eligible improvements in the program. Notes that the list is not exhaustive. While reviewing and approving the Historic Masonic LLC application, the City Commission asked that the GCRA Advisory Board look at the program guidelines and intentions in this regard. Second, our average time taken to review an application has been less than 30 days. Approval has been skewed to 92 days on average, as by design, any application for a historic building grant over $100,000 must go before the City Commission for approval. For the third point, I'm going to slide back over to the map of our district. And I just want to show you some of the streets here that are inside of the GCRA district on one side of the streets. For example, Main Street, as you come towards Williston Road. The GCRA district extends to the sidewalk only on the other side of the street. So we have had some potential applications from people that I unfortunately had to turn down and inform them that they were effectively on the wrong side of the street. As the other side is not actually in our district, we could not help them. There are some other sections along those same lines. Northwest 13th Street, there's a piece. If you come down to Williston Road, as well as Waldo Road, and Northeast 39th Avenue is another section. The main piece here on 13th University just has the university there, so that's not really applicable. But that is one comment that I wanted to point out, that we've had to turn down some potential applications for being just basically on the wrong side of the streets. Yes.
I had a question for you as order of process, and when I'm looking at this list, and it just hits me just now. So if we can go back to page 6, your annual update. So one thing that stands out is that the Masonic Lodge currently under redevelopment and redone. Is that the Masonic Lodge I'm thinking of?
Mhm.
That's the one by Senator Perry?
Yes.
It's not actually owned by Senator Perry. It is owned by Luis Rodriguez. It is under construction. They have been investing,
Luis.
I think, total nearly $1 million in that reinvestment or rebuilding of the building.
The public defender, Luis, okay. So how was it, does somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I recall Senator Perry coming to the city commission to want to get money. Am I wrong? Not that it's relevant or germane to anything, I'm just sticking out.
So Senator Perry was there for that item when it was in front of the commission the second time.
Okay. So Luis, how much did the Historic Masonic Lodge need? What did they were wanting on certain improvements?
So they had on the improvements that I listed earlier when I was
Gotcha. Okay.
sorry. So they were looking for nearly the full dollar amount of what could be used by the tier 4. So they were looking to do about $300,000 worth of improvements, which would have been able to receive just about the full amount of the $150,000 of matching. So that was upon consideration by the city commission. The city commission, as I mentioned, they removed funding for the awnings, the landscaping, the pavers, the sidewalk patio areas, and sealing of the precast concrete, which brought down the matching grant to $85,000 worth of maximum for the matching grant for that.
We're about to lose quorum. So Daniel, we're about to lose quorum. Member Mitchell's about to depart, so. Oh, never mind, okay. Absolutely. Good, Daniel.
All right. So I did just show the last piece here, which is one of the pieces I just wanted to mention. There have been some potential applicants that unfortunately had to turn down because they were just outside of the district. In closing, by all measures, the program has had a successful first year. The 5 goals reviewed at the onset have been achieved, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts and recommendations.
Thoughts and recommendations, Mr. Palmer.
All right, my one recommendation for the next, if we need a motion for this or not, I'd like to see this come back and for the new board, and I would like to have some form of discussion of what it would look like what we would have to, an education on the policy of expanding potential GCRA boundaries. I think that like you mentioned, people on the east side of Main Street are not qualifying down there on 16th, and there is exactly the type of thing in our corridor right next to.
So to answer, we actually had that discussion last year. To answer the process, that would have to go back before the county. They would have to change the entire interlocal agreement, and it would be a mess.
Okay.
It was a 10-year deal with a specific district. And Sarah or Ms. Bowie can correct me if I'm wrong. But remember last year when we had this discussion, I was saying the exact same thing you did, but we had to go back before the county, and then they would have to go back into negotiation with the city, because now it's a department. It used to be an agency, and it went from being an agency to now a city department. So they would have to go back to the county to renegotiate the entire agreement to expand the boundaries, and it will change the entire dynamic.
Okay.
So not that it's not probable, but probably
I mean, whether or not it's, I guess, probable. I mean, I guess if we as a board we can make that recommendation, and then it doesn't get followed through with or not because of logistics. But I do think that portion of Gainesville is really important to redevelop right now, and it seems like there's a lot of properties that are sitting there right for this intent. But
I agree with you. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jay.
I had just a question about the program as a whole. So is it for the renovation of historic structures solely? Is that what this is related to? No. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, I'm a newbie, so I had that question.
Don't feel bad. I'm not a newbie, and I'm still like you.
The second question that I had was, I actually had a concerned citizen that was talking about the Masonic Lodge. And they were telling me that they at one point had been interested in actually doing the renovations to that and was in negotiations with the masons, and the deal did not work out. But one of the concerns of this particular citizen was that in doing the actual renovation, that a lot of the historic character has actually been removed from that building. They replaced the original windows with vinyl windows, is my understanding. Again, I don't specifically know. This is something I was told. I understand that the original roof system that was on there was replaced with metal roofing. And so I was just curious how that works with respect to being eligible for the funding, if the historical value of these structures need to be maintained, or is there some guidance related to that? So that's just based on a comment that I heard from a citizen.
So I do appreciate your question. The historic Masonic is listed on the federal listing. I believe Kathleen spoke to the difference between the city's listing and the federal listing. I also believe that the Masonic was put on the city's listing, if my memory serves me as well. So I believe the Masonic is on both currently. So if they're making any structural types of changes that would affect the historic listing of the building, it's my understanding that they would have to go before the historic planning board to get approval prior to that. And this program does not vet those requirements. It relies on the actual applicants to go through those and receive all permissions, permitting, anything that is required. They have to perform that prior to being able to submit for this project or for this program.
That's for me. I'm just wondering how we're benefiting.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. Thank you.
Daniel, I guess for me, and this is just, it's you can say a tinge of bias, but and I watch Luisa on Facebook all the time and his updates. It's always something. It's actually pretty neat. But how is the city? How are we benefiting from the Masonic Lodge overall? I know it's a historical structure, but how are we benefiting, and what's going to be the benefit for the GCRA to give those monies to the Masonic Lodge?
So the program is designed to assist with renovations of buildings so that the overall area is actually improved. We have guidelines and requirements in place for the program. We also have requirements for what they're able to do and what they expect, including restrictions on what they cannot do. For this component, the city commission went through the list and decided which items that they were going to approve. I believe we might run into, if I were to try to cherry pick and say, they submitted for this item and it's in our list of items that they can do, and I give it to one business and I don't give it to another business, I think that would lead to problems. So I'm trying to be consistent in recommendations.
You know, that was inappropriate for me to ask, and I apologize for it. I apologize for that. That wasn't for you. You did answer it. The city commission decided it. So thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? All right. Does anybody want to move the recommendation or have a motion on the floor?
I think my only motion is to bring it back for the new staff, the new folks to see.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. There's a motion by Member Palmer, second by Member Merritt. Any discussion?
So the recommendation is, or your motion is basically just to bring this back, and then there will be action taken by the new board. That's what you're suggesting.
Recommendations, unless anybody has recommendations.
No.
You know, we can't move the border to the east side of it.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Mr. Blount?
I see something.
Yeah, please do. Our city business guru.
What's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, I mean, one way that we have discussed this issue of the, the wrong side of the street basically is that, and really the commission has also put it in their strategic action plan for next year, which is looking at the whole issue of economic development incentives a little bit more broadly than just in the GCRA. So, I mean, it might be something that we probably will want to work on. It's in my wheelhouse basically to work on, maybe looking at some of the incentives, in a larger geography. Wouldn't just be in the GCRA. Likely, if they were going to be funded, however, they'd have to be funded from a different city funding source. But I've spoken to the GCRA staff a little bit about, you could have a situation where you could just maybe replicate some of the incentives that a GCRA has, so it's seamless, but just use a different funding cost. So that's one idea. So we probably will be looking at this over the course of the year. I just wanted to throw that out.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah.
All right, see, member, colleague, do you have anything?
Well, my concern about the Masonic building was, one, was that blight? And two, the developers.
So do you have public comment? You have public comment?
Yeah.
Okay, you come up to the mic, sir, so people, the public can hear your booming, resounding voice. Just don't go down there.
Well, I had expressed to the meeting chair some concern
Well, you
about
did.
the Masonic building. Just to be transparent about the note I handed you. The Masonic building was, it needed work, but it was by no means an example of blight, in my opinion. And the developers appear to be people who are very well-heeled. I don't believe they needed assistance, but they saw money and they went for it.
Well, in all fairness, so to colleague, to respond to you, Daniel Blumberg brought up a good point in that it was approved by the city commission. So it was not staff, it was our elected officials that made that decision. Is that correct, Mr. Blumberg?
That is correct. The city commission made the final decision on it.
So is there any comments from anyone on Zoom? None? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Like sign, same like sign? Seeing none, motion passes. And that brings us up to,
So we actually, sorry, we skipped the approval of the minutes from last month's meeting.
we did.
Yeah,
So there's a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Motion is a second. Proper second. Member Merritt, member Ida made the motion. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I had a question when I was reading it over. I thought that member Dixon had changed the language of item number 4 of the recommendation, which said approve an amount of, this says 210,000 to purchase. I thought it was up to 210,000 was the actual statement that we actually changed that language.
I guess we can go back and watch and get a transcript.
no, you're correct. She did say up to. I remember that specifically.
All right, so if Tricia, if we can go back and correct the record to say up to.
Yep, it is. It's there under 8th and Waldo project update. Move the staff recommendation, but modify item 4 to say approve an item up to $210,000.
Okay.
Is that how you remember it? Or-
Yes, that's how I remember it exactly. But
Okay.
but here in the minutes, I don't see it that way.
No,
Item number 4, recommendation.
it's on page 2. Item number 201159. On the page.
Oh, as long as it's covered. Okay, then I missed that. That's fine.
It says approve an amount of 210,000 purchase. It doesn't say approve an amount
Up
Right.
to.
Up to,
Right next to the.
no, we got you. So we got some clarity that it's correct.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yep. Good.
As long as it's covered, I'm good with it.
Okay, so
Yep.
we have a
That's it.
motion and a proper second. All in favor of the motion? Say
Aye.
All opposed, like same like sign? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for keeping me on track, Tricia.
Mhm.
All right, next on the agenda, we have
So we have the consent items that were pulled, beginning with Hartwood.
Mr. Gill, can you give us a brief update on Hartwood?
I need to run. Yeah,
Actually, yeah, I'm gonna just hold off for Hartwood until next meeting. All right, I'm gonna withdraw mine for Hartwood.
Okay.
Did you want to hear the Infinity Line next meeting?
If everybody's got to run, I can wait.
Okay, so we're gonna hear the Infinity Line of Hartwood at next meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn? Yes? Oh, Ms. Silva, we do. Ms. Silva, did you have a public comment?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, just at the beginning, you had asked about the letter that several of us wrote to the city commission. And that was about the ordinances coming up. And I realized it's not exactly in the purview of the GCRA, but I thought as very engaged citizens that you are in the development of the city, you just might want to know about 3 ordinances that are coming up before the city commission on Thursday that would, one, allow spot zoning of transect zones anywhere in the city, and 2 and 3 would be to upzone and change the land use for 4.82 acres of South Main, where the Gray Bar building is now. And none of that has really had any public participation. And although it's not within the GCRA boundaries or anything like that, it should be part of a huge public discussion about the Power District and South Main and Depot Avenue and the surrounding neighborhoods. So that was just to call your attention to it. I'm quite aware that it's in the planning department and not GCRA, but it was just to you as individual engaged citizens. So that was my point. So thank you.
So I want to say to all of you all, as my colleagues, it's my last meeting with you all. It's been a pleasure to Member Palmer. You know, we all had I didn't really get to know you much, Member Norquist, but pleasure meeting. Jacob, my man, I'm gonna miss you, brother. Senor from Colombia, or where was it with you from? From the homeland, okay. Trisha, Ms. Bowie, I know you're out there somewhere. Daniel Gill, Sarah Vidal, all of Chelsea. You know, I love all of you very much. Khalid, Eric, it's been a pleasure serving with y'all. Is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go to put on the board next time. Please take care downtown. I feel like even this being on October 27th, the busiest weekend for all downtown businesses. That's coming.
Absolutely.
That's why I can't go. I'm busy.
Got a business around.
Yeah. You know, keep downtown cool. Think about it.
Great.
Grow our downtown.
What?
Great.
Yeah.
Is there any other member comment? Member Merritt's last meeting? He's gonna roll out on us.
Thank
No
you
pun
all.
intended. He's the man, a few words. You might as well say a few words, let people know you can talk. Go on and talk now. You're not Helen Keller.
Thank you all for the experience. It's been a great journey, and I look forward to seeing the combined efforts you all have for the development of Gainesville.
I'm really gonna miss this. Sorry, did somebody say something? Who's got their hand up? Tana? No, it's Ms. Silva's hand up. All right, well, is there a motion to adjourn? Actually, it's a motion to sine die. Yep, it would be sine die for us because this board will no longer meet.
Or whatever you.
Anybody want a motion to sine die?
Motion to signy die.
Is there a meeting adjourned?